What's happening, everybody? Good morning. It's an amazing morning. Amazing indeed. Here in Iowa. I haven't shot an arrow yet, so a lot of people don't know this, but I didn't know it either, but evidently we're the hot air balloon capital of the world. And see all those? Few hundred hot air balloons today. It's I don't know, do a championship or something. Most of them are coming this way too. They kind of have little contests, they drop crap around and all that good stuff. So one may just float by really close. I'm out here, gonna shoot a little bit. It's an awesome day, feeling patriotic. Got my red, white, and blue on. I broke out this old gem right here. Haven't shot that since the World Championship. I've got my old USA belt on. My sight mark is in meters, so I'm gonna have to estimate this distance. But yeah, we might as well fling a few, huh? Let's just start right here. Let's just start up close this morning. Get the cobwebs out. I'm gonna mini silverback it. I'll look at your comments while I'm going down. Oh. A little hard on the wall. What's happening, everybody? Thanks for joining. I'm just gonna shoot. I'm just practicing, so I just thought you guys might want to watch. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing, how much I'm gonna be shooting, but I got my hunting bow out here, got my target bow out here. I kind of set this Prevail 37 up for field, and my plan is I'm actually gonna find a field tournament to shoot with it. Kind of got the bug right now to shoot a field tournament. Really like field the most. I got my hunting bow over there. Definitely gonna shoot my hunting bow a little bit. It's due for a rebuild for sure. Yesterday was a long day. Went to the movies early. This arrow's damaged. Went to the movies. Neighbor had a big party. There was consumption of adult beverages. Feeling a little foggy headed this morning. So you're asking me about my stabilizer setup? I'm still shooting the original carbon blades. I really like these. I don't change stuff very much. A lot of you may notice that. But yeah, I really believe in keeping my setup simple. I think it's really important to just keep it simple. And that's about it. I'll show you this. I'll show you this setup here in a minute. This is the one that actually had the students build for me in Switzerland. That's why I really feel like one of the best ways to start out your morning is just pulling through, getting back into your timing. You can see, I mean, I'm not trying to do anything that's not real. First shot, release went off pretty quick. I was obviously pulling on the back wall. Now as I'm getting into my feel a little bit, I'm maybe not so aggressive on the back wall, so my shots are taking a little longer. So now I've got to kind of find that little sweet spot of pulling enough but not too much, which all that's really important to consistency. That's really why I like these releases too. Been awesome weather here in Iowa. Only problem is no rain. Put all my food plots in hoping for rain and it never rained. So I've got all my seed in the ground with no moisture. It's a bad feeling. All right, probably could shoot about right there. Go down there, give you all a quick look here. Well, I'll give you a quick look on my rig. This is what I'm shooting right now. It's a Prevail 37. I actually long strung this, so sorry about that. I strung it long so that I could go with a slightly smaller cam. So I think I've got a 4. Yeah, I could have shot a 5, but I actually have a number 4 cam. But I long strung it, 5/8 inch long string. I've got it in the D position, and it feels really good. But this is what I'm going with. I've got a 10/1000 standard width blade on an Elevate. So I still have, I didn't lock it down. I kind of like the fact that you can still have spring tension on that blade. That really helps you too when you're traveling, so you don't, my sight tapes in meters, so this is an original sure-loc, the sure-loc 1. The new one, I'll show you guys some more of the new one next week. I'll be at sure-loc, but that's pretty much the setup right there. Shooting a 10-inch carbon blade side rod and a 32.5-inch front rod. This is a really cool rack. I got super cheap. HME, Hunting Made Easy is the brand. They got a lot of like really affordable stuff. And here's my hunting setup. Give you guys a quick look at this. This quiver right here, honestly, I'm not just saying this, you guys always ask, so I'm telling you. I told Hoyt, dude, this is my favorite quiver they've ever made. This thing is so light. It's ridiculously light. Got the ability to adjust it up or down. Fits the arrows really good, and it's crazy light. I'm totally out of Trypan, so I went back to hypodermics for right now till I can find some more. These are my setups. This is my hunting arrow right here, so this is what I'll take for mule deer and elk in about 3 weeks. So I'm working on this. I'll probably do a rebuild on this bow. You can see this bow is possibly carrying, yeah, well, it's what a hunting bow is supposed to look like, but I should probably give it a bleaching Probably probably needs some bleach on it. I mean, when your dial is bloody, but yeah, that's it right there. It definitely needs an overhaul and a new string. You can see the string, see how it's starting to really almost cut up and fray from being dragged through the brush. At that point, it's really beyond saving. I'll just do a full replacement. I shoot a 10-inch stabilizer. This is an old fuse head right here with like an original Doinker body. This right here is by far my favorite, more so than just weighted discs. Yeah, that's it. This is a sure-loc right here that Steve Gibbs made for me 20 years ago. You can see he made me a 3-inch extension so I could hunt with the sure-loc. And yeah, that's it. It is battered, but I love it. It's been bulletproof, and we're gonna see a lot of that bulletproofness in the new one too. So flip the camera around here. Just gonna look at how can I shorten draw length if I'm already in the A on a DFX. So you can shorten the draw length by shortening the string as well. Shoot block this morning, you can see hitting the dots. Just a good way to start out. Show you the arrow I've got here. So this is the arrow I'm shooting right now. This is an Easton X10. I'm actually shooting a 420. Shooting a 420 with 110 grain tungsten. Shooting really good. The 380 shavs actually do shoot better for me, but I haven't built any yet. If you were following me when I was in Switzerland, I actually did some testing while I was there. I did the hill test for a video that'll be coming out, and the 380s did shoot better, but I haven't been free long enough to build any, so that's pretty much what's up. How does the Vapor Trail compare to Winner's Choice? I'm actually not shooting Winner's Choice anymore. I don't really know too much about Vapor Trail. I've seen several and they looked pretty good. Yeah, I ran into a few issues. I chose not to really talk about it, but definitely had some concerns with quality changing with the new ownership, and I guess the new decision to make things faster. A lot of serving separations, a lot of center serving separations and peep twisting, and I was just done with that. This right now is actually a Hoyt string. Shooting just a standard fuse string right now. I'm gonna be replacing these with, I'm gonna hand make some strings myself. I'm just gonna go back to doing that, just hand making some, which is fine. That's what I always did a long time ago. It's just not, it's time consuming. So all right, well let's put one at the mountain lion down there. So 40 meters is 44 yards. So let's see, 44 yards, 36, yeah, about 36 and a half meters would be 40 yards. Okay, I'm just guessing. Let's see how this one goes. We may have to move it after this. actually see the 12 ring. I didn't think that I could, but I can. It's pretty much a perfect guess because that's in the 12. So might as well look at a few questions here. Yeah, I mean, if you just place another order with Winner's Choice, hey, you guys, you may get a great set. Main thing is they do have a warranty, so if your peep is turning or if you do have a serving separation, just send it back. That's why you're paying that money. You're paying for the guarantee. So if you don't have it, then if you don't get them the way that you want, then just send them back. I do want to say though that I'm like super proud of everybody, all you out there tagging me and Silverback pictures. That is a huge step, and you should definitely be proud. All of you out there shooting Silverbacks, putting in the time, putting in the effort. That's a big deal. So you should 100% be proud of yourself. I know when I see those pictures, I'm proud of it, without a doubt, super proud of it. All right, well that's 40. Shot a three arrow group at 40. Let's see. Am I shooting left-handed? No, I'm right-handed. It's just because I've got the camera reversed. Sorry about that, but that's what happens when you self-film. So yeah, I went ahead and shot 3 arrows here. So there you go. Show you how it is. I'm not probably gonna shoot X10 Pro Tours for I don't have my arrow pull there. Probably not gonna shoot X10 Pro Tours for 3D events, but it's good for right now. Yeah, that is a dead kitty for sure. I can't go too much further, otherwise you guys will not stay connected. So let's see here. Difference with the AE Max versus the Blazer vanes. They're just a different shape, slightly different material. They're, I think, depending on the broadhead you shoot, probably get away with both. But if you're wanting to have the ability to shoot a fixed blade broadhead or even a bigger mechanical, having more vane is always going to be better for sure. So in that case, you're going to want to, I'm just going to pull this chair right here. In that case, you're going to want to probably see which vane works better for you. I'm not, a lot of the newer bows, the clearance on the inside of the cables is not as much as what you would want. So on a lot of the newer bows, because of the cable clearance, I actually have been liking some of the shorter profile vanes that have a little bit more length. which is why I've favored either a 4 fletch on a Pro Max or the Max Stealth Vane. Both of those have been my favorites. Yeah, do I ever practice from a tree stand? I do. I always like to practice how I play, but I can also practice from my elevated spot right there. So gonna go through some of your questions here. I have a drop away QED. I have marks on the rest as though my arrow is hitting it on the way out. How could I correct that? Yeah, so there's I mean, listen, every product isn't gonna work perfectly all the time. I mean, ideally we would want them to. However, some of the QADs at times, especially depending on the bow and how much inertia that bow has, or the length of your cord and how it's been set up, whether that cord length is correct or not correct, sometimes that rest doesn't actually trip and go down. If you've got marks through there, then that's an indicator that you for surely do. One second. Yesterday was a long day. I'm still trying to get woke up. But I'll just show you here. There was marks on your rest are always an indicator. So if you look at my rest right here, you'll notice that there isn't wear on one side of the blade versus the other side, and there's not stripes on the top right side of the blade right here, which is very, very, very important. That's all indicators of clearance. On this dirty old hunting bow right here, same thing. So, you know, there's no, when you look, there's no wear. You know, the only wear we've got here is, you know, where that arrow is going through the rest. So you don't see any marks anywhere on the blade itself. Okay, that's important because that's telling you that your arrows are indexed correctly. So you're indexing, meaning when you nock your arrow, like in this case, you would nock it like this, right? This is how you'd nock it. So this indexing plays a big, big, big part. And if you look at every one of my arrows, I'll turn this one. So every single one of my arrows, you see this one right here, there's the throat. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to get focus for you guys. But anyway, you can see the throat would clip on like that. I like my cock vane at 3 o'clock. These two bottom vanes are gonna clear my cables that are here. And with it being at 3 o'clock, this bottom vane isn't pointing straight down to where it's gonna touch my rest. It's still a little bit to the side. That's the position that I've found gives me perfect clearance. So this little tab on every nock, there's a little tab on the outside of your nock. See that little tab right there? That little tab I always have aligned right at the dead center of the back of my vane. Okay? And for me, on a fall away, that's my position. Now, with this set right here, which I'm shooting on my blade, I don't know why my focus isn't working too good, but I'll just show you here. With this, when I put these on, when you go underneath, you can see that my clearance under is perfectly between the vanes. Okay, so in this case, with this one, every one of my vanes is lined up exactly the same. Every single one. They're all lined up the exact same, so that I have center of the vane, center of the throat, so that I have perfect clearance on my blade. Really important. You want to make sure that the bottom left is clearing and the bottom right is clearing. If they're not, then you're some people put too much offset or too much helical on those small diameter vanes, and you don't have enough clearance. You end up having contact. You end up getting those kicks, those little high tears going through the paper that you can't fix, or left tears. Most common place for them to hit is on the bottom right. So you end up hitting on the bottom right, and in those cases you end up getting that little left tear that you can't get rid of. All you've got to do is work on your clearance and it'll clear that right up. Alright, so might as well shoot a few more here at 40. Keep flinging. See if there's any. I'll look through here on some of your questions. How do I know when it's time to get new strings? Really what I look at for strings is, when the string, it's one thing when the string looks dry and you can just wax it and then it goes back to looking normal. But when you start to wax it and then you work that wax in with like a piece of hot leather, and the string is actually balling up and like pieces of string are actually like looking fuzzy and dry rotted, at that point you really need to get a new string. Or if you start to see like a big flat spot right here, as you know, if it's your hunting bow and you've been shooting it all year, you start to develop a flat spot on your serving, and what happens is when your nocks push on, they don't have the ability for your string to spin like this, and that's going to cause problems for sure. So I really like to have a nice symmetrically round center serving, and I like to make sure there's no separation. Like in this area right here, you don't want any separation there. You don't want to see any separation at all here, and yeah, you don't want to have any of that. Bottom cam area down here, you don't want to have anything like that. You don't want to have strands hanging off in here. All those are indicators for sure that you need to replace that sucker. It's about as perfect of a day as you could get right now for shooting. It's just awesome out. I actually, for those of you wondering, my personal review, I actually really like the feel of this 37 more so than my 40, for a couple reasons. Probably should have came out with this earlier if people are still deciding. I really like the 37. It feels a lot tawner, and obviously it has less string, so less string is always going to equal less oscillation of the string, or less residual vibration that travels up and down through the bow. It's a lot tighter. I think it's got a little bit more speed, just going by sound, and I don't know, it's arguable. I just like the feel of the cam better. They both have SVX cams, but I really like, at least at my draw length, the 31, the way this breaks over and comes into the wall. It's really good. I like it. Going for the ASA 12s on this group. Let's see how it goes. So I know it's an ASA weekend. Let's see, is the bottom cam lean on a Defiant a problem, or should I get it fixed? It really depends on the severity of the lean. You know, what you have to remember is, you know, when you've got essentially two strings on one side of the cam, one on the other, depending on how centered this is in the limb, you know, and how short your bow is, how much your cables are being pulled over, all those affect angles and how much this leans. Let's see, I'm trying to see. Yeah, mine's pretty much perfect on this one. But the way to fix that is you can try removing the axle and taking the thin washer on one side and flipping it over to the other, and take the thicker and flipping it over to the other. You can do that first. The next thing is actually flipping the limbs around. So taking the limb on the right, putting it on the left. But for the most part, the bottom cam, I don't believe has near the importance as the top cam. And the top cam, you still have the ability to adjust it. I really like mine center when I'm at full draw. They seem to work really well for me there. So I can give you a look here at mine in a second. Yeah, you guys see that? That's mine right there. So you can see I like mine dead straight at full draw, and all you have to do is, you know, add twists. Whichever side is higher, add twists to the side that's higher, and it'll pull that down. And if you're ever trying to synchronize your cams, if you're ever at the point where like one twist on your cable of either side makes your timing go too far the other way, then you can always micro adjust that by using your yoke cable, because you can put, you know, half or one full turn in one side, and it's almost equivalent to a one full turn, or half of a turn, I mean, in the main cable. All right. Again, I'm using Silverback Mini. My hands aren't that big, and I just like the fact that I can't go too deep into the release. I actually shot 1 year on the tour. I shot the whole year with a Fits Me 2 release. So it was a little bit small, but I just like the fact that when I put my hand in here, that's about as far as I can go right there. So it pretty much keeps me true to right where I need to be. So got some kitty cat act here. That end was the lighting was a little different. I centered the first arrow as a center 12, and I actually thought it was a little right, so I aimed on the left side of it for the next two. I should have looked with the binos. You guys are breaking my concentration, making me drop points. Hi! So I'll show you another little really awesome gadget here, right here. So AAE makes these magnets. These are awesome. You can put them on anything, keychains, whatever, and all you gotta do is put them close. This is from AAE, these little magnet holders. I've got them on my keychains, all kinds of crap, but they work really good. You can just put it close and it's on your quiver. But let's see here. Gonna look through some of your comments here. Peep and lens combo. So on this particular bow here, I'm shooting this is a 0.7 diopter lens, which is equivalent to about probably 5 power at my length. It's about a 5 power lens. And there's the size of my peep. right there. I'm not really sure size. I just grabbed peeps. I think it's a micro, True Peep Micro Peep. I just grab a size that when I pull back, it's giving me that perfect eclipse, which I've talked about several times. Asking about the website, yeah, I've all but given up on that. It's a tremendous headache, so I'm just gonna go on with life. If it ever happens, it happens. How can we enroll in the school? It just comes down to time. I kind of have a list of people that I know have asked me. When I do have time, then I'll normally reach out to them. But for right now, because of how busy everything's been, I just can't have time for everybody. And if the website ever does happen, the the platinum members are going to be able to get a certain amount of direct responses from me too, and then also a guaranteed video analysis. So I've got to see how much time will be left over after that, and then once that's left over from personal lessons, I'll probably have an a la carte. I do plan on, depending on how my time goes, maybe offering some custom builds for people, or lessons here, and then those slots will all be prioritized according to the members, so you'll be able to get that direct email, and once people have signed up for them, they'll be gone, not available, but that's the plan. So let's see, have you ever tried running the drop away on the outdoor setup? So that is my other bow, the 40. I do have the drop away, and I have the drop away with which I really like. It worked awesome. I had the freak rest with the drop away. I liked it a lot. That's what the other one was doing. I shot it for indoor, and I shot it for my main 3D setup outside, and liked it a lot. I've considered, well, right now this is working really good with the blade, and I actually took this bow with the fall away set up, and they, as a class, wanted a blade more than a fall away, so we changed everything over. One thing that I'll say on a lot of target bows, because the limbs are a lot longer than a lot of the hunting bows that have these longer, straighter limb designs, the limbs are going to travel a little bit further forward as it's shot and fired. So these limbs, as they hit, they're actually going to flex a little bit beyond this position right here. And in that case, what I found is on the fall-aways, if you've ever had any problems like breaking blades or having a really loud crack when it's hitting, what's happening is if you start putting your clamp too far to the end of the limb, that over travel is almost hyperextending that rest down beyond where you have it set while it's at the rest position. So what's nice about putting the Elevate on my Hoyt is it actually contacts not only the bottom of the cage, but it also, the front of the launcher sits on the inside of the arrow rest shelf, which is really, really nice because you have double the support. So you can see here, what you want to do when you're setting up your elevates is first you want to set the rest to where, when you pull the rest down, it's touching right on the inside of this rubber pad here, which is great. Then I use the extended screw and I'll adjust the cage and then slide the cage up so that the cage is supporting right underneath the center part of the blade as well. And that works really, really good. Now, on some of the bows where people are shooting either a freak rest, or if they're shooting a target bow with a limb that's very straight, the older the bow, the more hyperextension that limb will have as well. They're finding that sometimes it's hyperextending too much and they break a blade. They want to know why, and that's why. The best thing to do is to move that clamp lower on the limb so that the limb isn't over traveling as far as it does when you have it all the way towards the end of that can. All right, gonna make a few more shots. Let's see. I have my anchor set up so it's right below my cheek, right below my cheekbone. When I move it down to my jawline where you set up, it doesn't feel right. What's the deal? What's the deal, Dud? Damn you, Dudley. So anytime you change anything, it's gonna feel a little bit awkward for sure. But really what I'm looking for is I really want to make sure that your arrow position on your face is where it needs to be, because once you start, if you're anchoring up higher, actually if you're anchoring higher, it's better than if you're anchoring lower, to tell you the truth. But if you're anchoring higher, it gets to the point where you start to raise this left arm so much to where it's harder to pull through properly. Really having this rear arm parallel with the front, that's what I'm looking for, because these movements and these lines are in the direction that I want. But what happens is when people put their knuckles behind their jaw like this, see how this arrow shaft is now down on my chin? It's a dangerous spot. And then I'll have to bring my head forward more to the string too. If you're up here, what you're gonna find is the string's gonna have to be on the side of your nose when you're up here, or you're gonna have to lean back. So really that position that I talk about, by having the index finger under, middle finger over, it puts the arrow directly between the lip and the chin. And that's important because it's in the safe zone of the face, so it can travel past without any contact. But secondly, the string also is not going to have contact either down the side of the face or the side of the nose, which depending on your anchor position, either one of those things can happen. So yeah, really get in the habit. Just put this index finger right under, middle finger over. And what's nice too, I wish I knew who it was. I actually was looking at someone that hashtagged me yesterday or a few days ago, but I was watching some pictures of him shooting, and he was shooting very, he was very inverted on the release hand like this. So if you invert too far, you start to bring this release out away from the face. Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, for some people, flexibility wise, it's harder to do. You'll have a lot more tension through the arm. But one thing I like about the way that I teach it is there's two lines that you really have to have that are paralleling one another. So first line is going to be thumb position here. And so when I raise my bow like this, I'm mirroring two lines. This line right here, thumb is at a 45 for my grip. Front hand, look at my knuckles, the release, knuckles 45. So when I raise like this, I'm mirroring two lines are at 45s. That way as I draw back, look at the line right here as I'm looking at you. If I'm looking at the target, I raise my bow to the target, look at the line of my thumb, look at the line of my face. Okay, see that right there? That line is the same. So look at this. This line here is exactly the same too. So all these angles as I come in, all these angles right here are essentially exactly the same, and that's what I look for. So let's see. Time to get the new strings. Let's see here. I'm not shooting a left-handed bow. The camera is flipped around so that I can read your questions. So, do you like Larry Wise's explanation of back tension? I haven't heard it in a long time. I like Larry. Larry's a good guy. He's been a good coach for a lot of people. He's coached me some as well. Um, but I haven't heard. I haven't heard really what he's teaching lately on back tension, so I can't honestly say. Um, let's see. Going through here, I have movement between my knock and D loop. How can that be fixed? So are you saying you have movement, so when you put this in here, this goes up and down? If that goes up and down, that's definitely causing you high and low impacts, no question about it. So really what you want to do, you can follow the video that I have on the YouTube channel for tying knocking points. You want to tie knocking points first, then put your D loop on, and that'll help fix that, because you want this to where once you're at full draw, there's no space in there, and depending on the axle length of your bow, or the size of the knock, or your draw length, all that can vary. But you definitely want to take that out. Make sure you get that to a shop. Sometimes just people getting their bow built when they first buy it with one arrow, and then all of a sudden switching to another arrow that may have another knock. Sometimes that little thing right there is what causes that variance in their gapping. But I would certainly get that fixed. It'll really help you for sure. Let's see. What are your thoughts on the Elite Energy? So I'm getting a little bit low on battery here. So the Elite Energy 35, I actually have one in there. I've got a lot of bows, just because when you guys ask questions, I want to be able to ask. There's things that I think are good about it, and there's things that I think could be better about it. I don't want to, what makes it really hard for me to do bow reviews on products that aren't necessarily brands that I represent, is I think a lot of people are going to take them, they're not going to take my personal opinion the way that I said. I know that right now, what I can tell you is this: if I wasn't shooting for anybody and I had to go and buy my own bow, that wouldn't be a bow that I would consider buying. And a lot of the things that I look for in any bow is I really like to look for torsional stability. So in other words, when I pull that bow back and I'm at full draw, how much torsional swing does that bow have? Like if you barely move your front hand and your bow has a lot of torsional swing, which that one does, it's very loose. I personally don't like that. I know that a lot of people, there's trade-offs. So a lot of people, they, even though it has some of that, if your front hand position is good all the time, you're not going to be affected by that as much. And some people just really like the feel and the wall, the let off and the wall of that cam. Now, how the cam comes into the wall and how the wall feels, I like a lot. But if you've been around archery very long, some of those first Elite models were very similar designs to bows that we had. If you go back to bows that were designed, even that Martin had 10 years ago, they were very, very similar. So some of those designs of the previous ones just, they're dependable and they worked, and a lot of people shot them for a long time. They worked great, but it just wouldn't be something necessarily that I personally would have looked at. So that's my honest opinion, and don't want to say anything bad. I've just coached several people with those bows, and I can see, when they're at full draw, I can see how much swing it has, and the longer the stabilizer you have, the more you can see it as they get nervous. So that's just not something that I particularly want to deal with. Let's see. let's going through here, just reading some of your guys' stuff. Tips for holding steady. So steadiness really comes down to two things. Steadiness is going to come down to your triangles, your lines on your body. I talk a lot about posture and formation because, you know, it's just like if you take someone that's a gymnast and you tell them that they have to walk on a balance beam with their front hip forward and their front shoulder up, and they have to walk across like this, they're not going to be near as good at it as if you let them maintain a T formation, right? So it's essentially the same. Once you start to change your posture and change your structure, really the only way to make things start to stabilize is by adding so much weight that you really can't move it very easy. So because you can't move it, it sits still. The problem is that starts to really affect how you can actually pull through your shots, which is certainly a problem. So I really like to do two things. One, the position of your arrow in relationship to the pivot point of your bow. So where your bow pivots and where you pull from, whether it's here, 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 wherever you pull from is going to affect how that bow holds up and down like this. Also proper draw length, because that again, head position being just perfectly vertical, and then lines. A lot of the lines I look for when I'm coaching people, those also have a lot to do with the ability to aim. I need to shoot a little bit because I've only shot like 12 shots with all of you. I could have probably had about 100 in by now if I was not chatting with all of you out there. So this bow right here, for me, the way I have it set, and I changed my draw length a few times. I changed my cable length, and that's another reason I really like tied knocking points, because tied knocking points allow you to change your D loop to fine tune your draw length. Okay, that's dead center in the ASA 12. So I've got to shoot that knockoff in order to beat Ryan Bronco for the South Florida Barbecue 3D Championship. Oh, Ryan. It's a close one, dude. I overheld too. I was holding my breath. I think you got me. If you're the first arrow. Let's see here. Just looking through. Yeah, so many questions for website. Sorry, everyone. It's a very sore subject. Oh, dang. Ryan, I think Ryan officially beat me. I told you the first one was a pinwheel, and then I'll be danged if I didn't shoot just under that damn thing. Ryan Bronco bringing home the South Florida Barbecue Championship 3D course trophy. But no, that's there's a couple things I'll just tell you too. My battery's getting low. There's a couple things I think are really important. Right now, I can tell you one of the things that I'm working on myself is paying attention to my front bubble. For whatever reason, in the last little bit here of starting to shoot with my target bows and my scopes, I've kind of failed to recognize my bubbles. And actually I know 100% on that arrow right there, if you play that back, I'm willing to bet, I know I held probably 2 to 3 inches longer than I wanted, and I'm willing to bet that extra time my bubble started to fall. So as I was holding, I bet my bubble was going to the right, my top limb was going left, and that's why I put it out an inch left. I was probably 1/2 to 3/4 of a bubble off at that distance, and that's really all it takes to miss a 12 ring, is failing to pay attention to something like that. Let's see here. I'm gonna fling one more. I'm afraid of my battery dying, but I'm gonna shoot another one here. Then I gotta get going. I gotta run with Harry. Okay, that should be right at the 6 o'clock 12. Oh yeah. All right. I'm gonna put one more in there, and I'm gonna shoot one at the deer. So let's see. That's 50 yards. So that'd be 46 meters. 46. Right there. 44. All right. Let's put one in that deer. We'll go center 12 on the buck. Ooh, fuzz low. Bottom of the 10. All right, I'll take another quick look, and then I gotta shut down. Battery's about dead. Let's see here. Everybody, thanks for helping one another on there too. I appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody, and make sure you get out, grill. I'm gonna fire up the grill. I'm grilling today. I'll probably show you guys a cool little recipe. I'm gonna do an easy recipe today. I'm gonna try to get my 100 in for today, and all that good stuff. So see you, everybody.